How do you find something that's the best tasting thing in the world, but also made of better for you, less processed ingredients? It just didn't exist. And so I was like, I'm going to remake a chocolate chip cookie.
Welcome to the Millionaire University Podcast. I'm your host, Brien Gearin, with you today. And on this edition of the MU Pod, I'm joined by Loren Castle. She's the owner of Sweet Loren's, founded after a cancer diagnosis that spurred her passion for creating great tasting, better for you food. Loren, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to pepper you with all sorts of questions about Sweet Loren's, how it's starting, how you guys operate, and how things are going for you this year. So let's jump right in and start with your origin story. How did Sweet Loren's come to be?
I grew up in New York City and I was exposed to great food at an early age. I went to USC, and right after I graduated, 22 years old, I woke up one morning and the lymph nodes in my neck were incredibly swollen. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, had to start chemo treatment immediately. When you get a cancer diagnosis at any age, no one's expecting that. But at 22, I just felt invincible. So it really made me appreciate life. It made me realize that health and wellness was the most important thing above everything else. While I was going through treatment, I started to study nutrition and take cooking classes because I wanted to eat food that was going to fuel me and energize me and help me heal. I started to eat just whole, real ingredients and cut out anything artificial, anything hydrogenated, any weird chemicals. So I became a good cook, but I have a huge sweet tooth and I love to bake. And there was nothing I could find in the market or bakery that was really delicious, but also made of good ingredients. That was the hard part. How do you find something that's the best tasting thing in the world, but also made of better for you, less processed ingredients? It just didn't exist. And so I was like, I'm going to solve that problem for myself. I'm going to remake a chocolate chip cookie and make it the best tasting, but actually feel good after I eat it. I'm going to try to use whole grain flours, healthier oils, less processed ingredients, make it less inflammatory, hundreds and hundreds of tries. This didn't happen on the first or second try, but I finally got to this recipe that all my friends and family loved. What if I create a brand? I'm going to call it Sweet Loren's. There's always a sweet intention behind it. And I'm going to use this really stressful, hard time in my life and turn it into the most positive thing that could have happened to me because it created this really positive thing out of it.
That's amazing. It's funny how the world works, right? Something so scary and so negative turns into a business idea, a wildly successful business idea that fills a void in the market. I absolutely love that. So let's talk about Sweet Loren's. We have the impetus for the business, but what were the first days like? What was it like building that first product, taking it to the market? And then do you sell online? Do you sell in wholesale or in the markets and stores? How does that all work?
The early days were very challenging. Thankfully, I was cured and the doctor was like, okay, go be normal, get a normal job. And I was like, I am not normal anymore. My life is so different now that I've gone through this. I feel a lot older. I feel a lot wiser. I really want to make sure I'm living every day intentionally, and baking with healthier ingredients and making sure taste was delicious became the most exciting thing that I was working on. I just fell in love with it. It captured everything I wanted to do, which was make the world a better place and figure out something that I enjoyed doing every day. And so I did a couple farmers markets in New York City where it was such a schlep, but you go to the farmers market with a table and bring a bunch of different baked goods. And I just was testing out how much would someone pay for these baked goods. I made about 10 or 15 different types of baked goods. What do people even want? Is it a chocolate chip cookie? Is it an oat bar? Is it a brownie? What's the most popular thing? I just was there to kind of gather feedback and really know what people want the most. And then I joined a business writing group, a 4-month program to write a business plan for Sweet Loren's because I was like, I don't know if I want to open a bakery or create a consumer packaged product that would go into grocery stores. I don't know if it would be shelf stable or refrigerated or frozen. I just wanted to dive into what all the costs would be. What am I really getting into? And why am I doing this? And what I came out with was, I don't want to have a bakery. I don't want to have to always be in the same place every day to make sure it's running successfully. I want a product that I could sell to every single city and state in the country, internationally one day. I want to reach as many people as possible. And I want freedom. I want this job to not feel like it's holding me down, but to give me freedom to do what I want to do. And so creating consumer packaged product really did those things. And so that was a great exercise. And in the class, this guy worked in Whole Foods on the overnight shift to make money. And so I was like, Corey, how does one get into Whole Foods? And he was like, I don't know. Let me ask the buyer. So he called me the next day and was like, you have a meeting with the head buyer of this super busy store, the Columbus Circle store in New York City on Wednesday. And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? My website said coming soon. I didn't actually have a packaged product yet. I just had recipes. But the number one thing I promised myself when I was going to start the business was to show up 110%. And if I wanted this business, no one was going to build it for me. I couldn't blame anyone else if it didn't work out. I had to show up. I had to show up and mean what I said and be as professional as possible. So I wrote a one-pager on what Sweet Loren stood for, the types of ingredients, the story of overcoming health issues and why I'm so passionate about this, the different flavors I offered. And the buyer that I met with was really receptive. We walked around the supermarket together and we looked at all the different categories. I could launch into a shelf-stable cookie, but I could also do cookie dough and what would be the best experience for the customer. And I was just obsessed with cookie dough because it's probably one of the most favorite foods of all American families. And it's what we grow up on. And it's hard to make healthier from scratch and also make it taste amazing. So just to make something really convenient and give every family that opportunity to bake something warm out of the oven. It really was my aha moment of like, that's the first product I'm going to launch into. He called me the next day and said, our buyers, my whole team tasted all your cookies. They said, nothing has tasted this good. They are obsessed. How soon can we get it? And so I was like, oh, give me 1 month. I really thought in 1 month I could find a factory, design packaging, get it into the store. And it took 7. But I kept in touch with him for those months and he eventually put it in the store. And I was that girl demoing every single week in Whole Foods. I would take a toaster oven in a rolly suitcase in the subway and go to Whole Foods and demo. And again, just try to really refine the product, sample it on hundreds of people. What flavors do they like? What feedback do they have for the packaging? Just really feel in my gut how to perfect the business more. Then I won a contest right when I launched. That contest gave me more confidence, gave some really good press, and I won branding and design work. And so the company helped me redesign our packaging. That's when I started to learn how important the packaging design and psychology is. And then it was off to the races. Fast forward now, 10 years later, we've refined the packaging several times. We now have 10 SKUs of refrigerated cookie dough, chocolate chunk and fudgy brownie and salted caramel chocolate and a less sugar chocolate chunk, a whole seasonal line of oat milk cranberry, chocolate mint, pumpkin spice, gingerbread. We just did a collab with this birthday cake flavor cookie dough with Hello Kitty. We finished a pink heart-shaped collab with Barbie. So we've really grown. We're the number 1 natural cookie dough brand. We're in over 35,000 supermarkets. We're sold in the refrigerated cookie dough section right next to the big guys. We're super delicious and gourmet, but at the same time, really simple, clean ingredients. We're also allergen-free, gluten-free, dairy-free. We're vegan, we're nut-free. So if you're trying to stay away from those things or have a certain lifestyle, probably Sweet Loren's feeds all of your family and friends, everyone at the table.
Wow. Okay. So Sweet Loren's, it's limited to just its cookie dough that you can buy in the refrigerator section. And then you have it at home and bake it at your will, right?
Yeah. And it's really cool packaging where it's pre-portioned. So you can just open it up and, you get 12 cookies at a time and you can just make 1 or 2 or the whole pack in your toaster oven, in your air fryer, in your regular oven. So it's just really easy and convenient for the modern family. We now have also refrigerated pie crust and puff pastry and pizza dough. We also have some shelf-stable breakfast biscuits that you can throw in your kid's lunchbox or your purse. So we've really expanded into kind of snacking and more refrigerated dough. But I started with cookie dough, and that's really what we're known for.
Wow. Okay. So is the recipe still the same as when you said you did hundreds of iterations and you landed on one where you're like, oh crap, this is it. Is it still the same, or are you constantly iterating?
It's pretty much the same. We don't change anything that's really core to the recipe. Little things that just help it. Like there's proprietary way it's mixed and put together and things like that just help it last even longer naturally on the shelf and look even better and spread even better. So things like that. But no, we're never stopping. The goal is always to keep it the highest quality ingredients and really the best customer experience.
How did you said it was a 7-month process, essentially finding production, right? shed a little light on that process. Like, how did you're like, okay, I've got this recipe, I've got this awesome cookie dough. I need to figure out how to make this at scale.
Yeah, I was a one woman show. So I knew some friends that were in the food industry that like would rent out their, a kitchen and kind of make everything themselves. I just knew that wasn't for me. I knew I was going to end up starting to hate it if I was baking all the time. Plus, I was a one woman show. So I was like, how do I make enough product and then also be the one doing the demos and selling it and answering customer service questions and trying to get into other supermarkets? So I just knew I needed to find a factory to start making it. So I started Googling and calling anyone and everyone I knew. I would go to trade shows and talk to people and get references. And, basically I got introduced to a lot of big cookie dough factories, but I wasn't ready. Their minimum run is so huge for someone just beginning that I didn't want to commit to like doing a huge run and then having to throw out a ton of products. So I found a tiny, tiny factory that had never made cookie dough before, but they had mixers so they could make anything. And they were a 3.5 hour drive from New York City. And I would take a bus ride up and spend the whole day there teaching them how to make the cookie dough. Again, it's very different when you're like making a small batch at home and then going to a factory and like 30 timesing the recipe, 50 timesing the recipe. But I just started to play around with it and adjust things based on like intuition. I'm not a food scientist. It was more like, I just knew the ingredients really well. And so started to play around with it and launched it in the most affordable, not perfect packaging. It was just the easiest, simplest way to get to market. But then I won that contest. And what I won was branding and design work. And so by the time I started working with them, I had been a year in Whole Foods to like have a lot of data of what customers were saying, like different flavors they wanted. They liked pre-portioned packaging so they could just make one or two at a time versus like a tub. What packaging would look better to pop off the shelf. That's where the pink, we're kind of known for our strong magenta, like power pink. And that's where that color kind of came from because it like really like women loved it. Men loved it. Like it just popped off the shelf and we really wanted to own something and be different and be modern. So, tweaked the packaging and then again, we've tweaked the packaging since, but it's been an iteration.
Okay. And then, when you found the production, the place that could make it, has that changed as you guys have grown?
Absolutely. We are now our 5th factory.
Wow.
I've had to move 5 times just based on who can handle our growth, who's the best in class, who does my team like working with, who's the most reliable, who can do other products. Cause now we don't just do cookie dough, we do refrigerated puff pastry and, pizza dough and pie crust and more items soon. And we have a shelf stable breakfast biscuit. So we've expanded. And so, yeah, we're definitely have grown over time to figure out who's the right fit for us.
Did you kind of like just go straight to the moon with getting into Whole Foods right off the rip?
Whole Foods was really great in the sense that it's still today one of our best, customers and accounts because that audience really appreciates what we do, like better for you and clean ingredients. We're the number 1 cookie dough sold at Whole Foods. And Whole Foods is an incredible brand. So getting in there, even if it was only 1, 2, or 3 stores, it seemed like I was a billionaire already, which
right.
Was not the case. Like we weren't even making money in the early days. It was just more, there was a prestige of like, can we deliver on time? Are we doing well in a supermarket like that feels higher end? And I think that helped give me the confidence to figure out, okay, well, it's great to be in Whole Foods, but like the rest of the country not every city doesn't have a Whole Foods. It's actually like, I grew up in New York City. I'm now living in LA. We have Whole Foods all around, but a lot of other states, there isn't a Whole Foods or it's a drive. And so it's like, we have to get into all the other supermarkets. Like we have to make it easy for every type of family to find us at their local store, whatever their store is. And so then I got a meeting with Publix supermarkets, and Publix supermarkets brought us in really on the first meeting, all stores. And that launched the business. And then we got into all Kroger supermarkets on the first meeting, all stores. And that really made us go nationwide and also really mass market. And really ever since then, we've been kind of just growing that way, like the specialty natural independent stores, but then also any and every type of supermarket to make it easy for every type of family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it probably helped having a little bit of Whole Foods data in your back pocket when you went to meetings with Publix and Kroger, right?
It did. It definitely helped, but not all products that do well in like a Whole Foods do well in like a Kroger or Publix. And I think it was a really big deal to like get into the mass supermarkets. And, we didn't know, like, are we going to do well there? And thankfully we did very well there. And so we felt like, okay, we can be both in a Whole Foods and also a Target and a Kroger and a Publix and a Stop and Shop and, Wegmans and anything and everything kind of around there. So it really made me believe more in Sweet Loren's and really the opportunity to build the next brand name in better for you baking.
That's awesome. Did you guys ever do any direct to consumer? It sounds like there's not a need for it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is our product is refrigerated, so it's expensive to ship, but we do ship from our website. So if there's a specific flavor or if you love the product or if your local supermarket doesn't carry all the flavors or something, it's worth it to buy online. You just have to buy 6 packs at a time. And so not everyone is ready to purchase all of that. But our breakfast biscuits, because they're shelf stable, we sell them on Amazon and you can buy our cinnamon sugar flavor or our chocolate or a blueberry, and they're delicious. And those are just like a crunchy breakfast biscuit you could dunk in your coffee or tea, or again, kids love it, adults love it. It has like 4 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber. So it's not just a cookie, it's really like a snack pick-me-up breakfast.
Wow. Okay, I love that. So as you started growing, you started as a one-woman show. When did you start hiring, and how did that process turn out for you?
I think everyone will say this, but hiring the right team is the hardest part of all of this, because I think you're still figuring out, first of all, not everyone wants to work in a crazy startup environment where things are always changing. Everything is, every single account, everything means so much. So the stakes are really high, and it means you need really high performers that have huge expectations of themselves and are really committed to the cause, because you can't afford to mess up. You've worked too hard. And so I think it's hard to find those people. And so in the early days, I had a VP of sales and a COO, and those 2 first hires really helped get us off the ground because they were there and reliable and kind of adults in the room. And then we still have our VP of sales, from that day. She's been with us like 8 years, but, kind of everyone else on the team, we've grown out of, or they've grown out of us, or they've wanted to move on, or we needed someone that had more experience because we've been doubling almost every year in size. And so it's really hard also to like those first people you hire, like maybe they're not going to be the right fit 2 or 3 years down the road. Maybe they can't grow at the same rate you are, or they don't have the experience, or they don't want what the company's turning into, which is like a bigger company. So all those things, I think you just have to roll with it because, it takes time. And people are the most important thing. Like having a reliable team is the most important thing. So we don't compromise. We have to feel like we have the best people for us, that love what they do and are going to help us be nimble and outsmart the big guys. And so I think it's been, growing pains ever since we started because we've been growing year over year so much. But 3 years ago, I hired a president, and that was an incredible decision, especially because I have 2 little girls. And it really helped me move away from the day-to-day of running the company day-to-day and also managing all people. And I think now I get to focus on just being the CEO, like making sure high level everything is going to our plan. I'm really involved in innovation. I'm the face of the brand. I do a lot of interviews and things like that. But the part that I love is, the mission and the vision and thinking outside the box. And so now I have time to do those things and also be a mom and not feel like I'm just working 24/7, 7 days a week the way I used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Startup costs for this, were they extravagant, or was it all bootstrapped? Going back to the beginning, how did you start it all up in terms of capital?
Yeah, in the early days, we weren't profitable in the very early days. So I was teaching yoga on the side. I raised some friends and family money. And then we really focused on being profitable and became profitable and never looked back. And so we've been profitable for the last 7 years. And I think like it's possible to have a really healthy business if you stay very focused. Like we didn't launch into 100 SKUs. We focus on cookie dough. We focus on building a really healthy business with just cookie dough, with really just a couple of flavors of cookie dough. And then once we got this really healthy business, it was like, okay, now we can start expanding into new flavors, into seasonal, into new products, because we have a machine running and a really kind of sustainable business.
Is your profitability or your margins, is that in your line of business, is that difficult given the fact that you play with the biggest dogs in distribution? Like, how do you maintain your margins when you're A, doing that much volume, but B, dealing with the guys that are, I feel like they're notorious for getting their price, right? Like, how's that work?
Yeah, I think like you have to have a healthy margin, but I think food specifically, especially refrigerated food, and it's notoriously known for not having as big of margins as jewelry, clothing, makeup. But, you can still build a really healthy business because the volume is there. If you're in 30, 35,000 supermarkets, right? Like you are doing serious volume. So, to me, like food is just so important. It's really like, to me, it's everything. I love fashion. I love beauty. I love makeup. But it's the thing that gets me out of bed every morning. It's like, it's the most important thing. It's how we fuel ourselves. It's our joy. It's how we take care of ourselves. It's how we self-care. It's how we nourish. It's how we like teach our children how to take care of themselves. And so it's not trendy. I feel like it's here to stay.
Absolutely. So how does marketing for Sweet Loren's work? I know obviously you said you get to focus on more higher level things like doing interviews like this and getting the word out about Sweet Loren's, but you're also in 35,000 stores. Like, is marketing a massive necessary thing, or is it like, look, we're in the big dogs, they handle it for us?
We've never spent a lot on marketing to this date because we've been able to grow year over year with new supermarkets, and our community has been the most incredible fan base, and they've just told their friends and shared on social media. And so it's really been word of mouth and distribution that's helped us grow. But I think now when we look at it, now that we're in basically all the major retailers, our brand awareness is still quite low. And we think like, we could 5 to 10x the business just based on more people knowing about us. And I just think about how many more people would fall in love with our product. How many more lives could we change? There are so many people out there that appreciate our product, and probably so many people that just don't know about us yet. So this is the first year that we've like really hired a really talented, experienced SVP of marketing, and we're doing really smart marketing that's a really more in store and targeted to those supermarkets, and really, it's very ROI based. It's very, are we driving more sales? Because otherwise it's not worth it. You can spend a lot on marketing and just trying to wonder if it's working or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's without that part, without the ROI, it's like, what are you doing? Right.
Exactly. And we work so hard to be profitable. I'm not wasting money on things that aren't working.
Absolutely. Do those campaigns, are these more like national type of things, or are they highly targeted? How does that look?
Both. I think like we've done fun collabs, like the Barbie collab. Now it just launched in store, the Hello Kitty Sweet Loren's cookie dough collab. Things like that just are buzzworthy and, get us some cool press. So there's things like that we do. But again, everything's really focused on driving sales in store so that we can tell if it's working or not.
Absolutely. What are some of the struggles that you've run into in the last 10 years of business? Or was there ever like and maybe not an incident, but some sort of like you kind of hit a plateau and you had to find some extra gear to get to the next level?
We survived COVID. Oat flour is a big ingredient for us. We had a huge oat flour shortage in North America that made us scramble and find different suppliers. My whole team, we became a virtual company during COVID because we started to grow a lot. We started to hire people, the best talent we could find wherever they were located. And so have dealt with that challenge. Chocolate, which is a big ingredient for us, is at an all-time high. So nothing has ever been easy, but I think we've just had the mindset that we're going to figure it out and we're going to figure it out together. And now we're going to be smarter and hire really experienced team ahead and protect us more for the future so we're less surprised by things. But that's what a business is, constant problem solving.
That's right. That's entrepreneurship. We're here to solve problems, right?
Exactly.
I love it. All right. Well, Loren, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. If there's anybody out there, any of our listeners who want to get in touch either with you or your company or just learn more about Sweet Loren's, what's the best way to do it?
So please follow along our journey on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, at Sweet Loren's, at SweetLorens. You can follow me personally at Loren B. Castle, LORENB Castle on Instagram. And if you want to check out our website and find out what stores near you sell our products, just put your zip code into our store locator and it'll show you the supermarkets nearby you that sell all different types of products. That's sweetlorens.com. And yeah, find us in the refrigerated dairy section of your local supermarket and reach out to us anytime if you have questions or comments. We really love hearing from you guys at hello@sweetlorens.com. And thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. My pleasure. Well, I'm on my way to Kroger to go find some Sweet Loren's. So
you're going to freak out. I can't wait to hear what you think.
Thank you so much, Loren.
Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Millionaire University podcast. Big thanks to Loren for sharing her story with us about Sweet Loren's and how she turned a horrible diagnosis into just an incredible company that's in over 35,000 supermarkets across the country. Just unreal. If you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and share this with someone in your network. Hit that share button in your pod player or go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. Really helps us grow our viewership on the podcast. All right, that's it for me, Brien Gearin, signing off. Can't wait to catch you on the next episode of the Millionaire University podcast. And until then, I want you to all go out there and crush it today.